Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to talk to you just a bit about the Planetary NASA Planetary Geologic Mapping Workshop that we proposed. I'm not showing my video. I'm having a little bit of trouble with my internet, so I just want to provide every opportunity for you to hear me, which is more important than seeing me. I'd like to acknowledge and appreciate my co-workers on this, Jeanette Wallach, who has years of experience teaching at Tennessee Tech and offered a planetary geologic mapping workshop at GSA that I got to attend a year ago. Zoe Lerner-Ponterio, who's offered an ArcGIS workshop at LPSC that I got to attend, and of course Jim Skinner, who needs no introduction. Next slide, please. So what we've proposed is a first NASA Planetary Geologic Mapping Workshop, and this follows from various discussions with many people on this participant list here that we have today. Thank you all. This builds on ideas that we heard from you all, discussions that I had or that other people contributed. What we've really aimed to do, as it says in sort of my abstract of our abstract, is to broaden involvement in the planetary geologic mapping community. This is a very sort of basic proposal, basic workshop proposal. Jim Skinner has voiced the idea. I got to talk with Jim and David Crown yesterday about how this workshop might be part of a multi-component educational extravaganza of planetary geologic mapping, I think Jim called it. So this is a very basic first attempt, and I want to thank the people who've been discussing this for years before we proposed it. We proposed it to the topical workshop symposia and conferences call from NASA. We got it in a bit late due to various things happening this spring. There's possible funding from SSW and PDART. It will be held in Flagstaff in June 2021, in the week immediately preceding the 2021 PGM there. We put in the proposal in the event that we can't hold it in person, that we use our experience in online and remote education to provide the workshop remotely. And Jeanette and Zoe have critical experience doing that as educators. And that's really something that we needed to tap into and to be able to offer in the current environment. Next slide, please. So the objectives of this proposed workshop match all four of the goals of the TWSC program, and I've just got those listed out there: to encourage and facilitate the use of mission data, increase efficiency of investigators, increase through advanced technical training, increase efficiency of investigators through exchange of ideas, and expose investigators to new subject areas. I just have listed there ways in which this planetary geologic mapping workshop would do all those things, especially the last one, expose investigators to new subject areas. Again, we're trying to broaden participation in the planetary geologic mapping community, maybe sort of part of the revitalization and the expansion of this community that Jim mentioned just briefly earlier. Next slide, please. Our target audience for the first year is 12 workshop attendees. I think Pete and their well-established and super successful volcanology workshop in Hawaii, I think they welcome something like 18 attendees. I also want to thank Pete here for sharing their past proposal with us and being so supportive of this proposal. Anyway, we're not nearly brave enough to start out with such a large group, but we're starting with 12, we hope, maybe the first year. We'll solicit applications through various channels, and applicants of all career stages and experience will be accepted. And that's an example of one point that was something that we heard through discussions with colleagues over the past year or two. I think maybe Stuart Robbins in particular felt that it would be great if people of all career stages could be welcome, and they certainly are welcome. I have there some information about the applications, a one-page letter articulating the expected benefits of the workshop and the relation to applicant studies. As an aside here, please let me know if you're not able to hear me. I have lunch preparations going on in the background, so I apologize for that. Anyway, the third bullet there, we have a minimum level of fitness required for this workshop, and in subsequent years we hope to broaden continue to broaden the number and diversity of applicants who could attend by enabling participation by differently abled participants. And participants will be invited to self-identify diverse characteristics, and we'll certainly discuss that at the pre-workshop meetings at LPSC, and workshop instructors are educated on these ideas and will maintain their education and their training on an implicit bias. I'll say here also that I mentioned in the pre-LPSC workshop meeting there on the sort of second to last bullet, there will also be pre-workshop exercises, GIS exercises that will be sent out. And Zoe and Jim will help us put those together in particular, so that participants will come to the workshop with some familiarity with ArcGIS at a very basic level. And my last slide, I think, on my next slide is the workshop schedule. I've highlighted kind of the important points. I guess overall I should say the schedule covers 1 week, and it starts on a Thursday and ends on a Thursday. So there's a weekend in there for everybody to get to see the Flagstaff area, hopefully, or maybe just, if we're doing this virtually, just take a break for a little bit. The first 2 days there I'm showing are paper and pen mapping exercises. Again, this is Jeanette's particular expertise. We really want to just get across kind of the concept of mapping, even just the philosophy of mapping, without getting people caught up in or confused by the buttonology, as Mark Hunter calls it, of ArcGIS. Then there's a weekend in there, or a Sunday, so to speak, and then we have 3 days of ArcGIS mapping, a local site, and then moving to a couple of planetary sites. And then the last day is a quick introduction to creating a map package and a 2-hour poster session with the Flagstaff Planetary community in the afternoon. That's what I have, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you. What is the timeline of the application process? Great question, thank you. We'll start advertising it as soon as we hear. We hope to hear by maybe late fall. We need to send out start advertising it just as soon as possible if we're going to be able to let people know in time to plan their LPSC travel. People don't have to be attending LPSC, of course, in order to participate in our pre-LPSC workshop. They can certainly do that remotely. But the short answer to that question is the timeline for the application process, we think is going to be late fall. Thanks for that question. Will it be open for international applicants? Another great question. The model that we have in our thinking, the model that I have in my thinking is Pete's volcanology workshop in Hawaii. And I think those individuals have to be working for and maybe funded by a NASA program. Maybe Pete could speak to that a little bit. But right now, I think it might not be open to international applicants, but I appreciate that question. We'll take that as something to explore. And Pete, if you want to speak to that, that would be great too.